Most people think their dog reacts to commands, sit, stay, come here. But that is only the part you notice. Your dog begins responding to you before the command exists, before your hand reaches the leash, before your voice changes, before you realize you are about to leave. It is not waiting for instructions. It is reading the pattern that comes before them. And the strange part is that this is probably happening all day. You stand up from the couch and your dog lifts its head. You shift your weight toward the hallway and its ears move. You touch one drawer instead of another and the body on the floor is suddenly awake, watching, preparing. You think you have not done anything yet. To your dog, you already have. Most people explain this as affection. Your dog loves you, so it pays attention to you. That is true, but it is incomplete. Love is the emotional part of the relationship. Attention is the survival part. Dogs did not become dogs by being cute. They became dogs by surviving near humans. By the end of the last ice age, dog lineages had already begun spreading and diversifying beside human groups. That means the animal sleeping on your floor is not just a pet. It is the result of a long experiment in living near the most unpredictable species on Earth. A human could feed you. A human could kill you. A human could throw a bone, start a fire, move camp, open a door, pick up a weapon, or look at you in a way that meant the situation had changed. The animals that survived were the ones that learned the difference. Over thousands of generations, that pressure produced something unusual, not simply a smaller wolf, not simply a friendlier predator, an animal whose social world became partly organized around reading us. Dogs do not just watch your face, they watch the small movements around it, the tightening before anger, the softening before affection, the way your eyes move toward the place where the leash is kept, the speed of your steps when you are relaxed versus the speed when something is wrong. To you, these are habits. To your dog, they are signals. In 2020, researchers studying free-ranging dogs tested whether animals with no owner could still use human gestures. A stranger pointed toward food. Many of the dogs followed the human signal anyway. Think about what that means. A dog does not need a lifelong bond to suspect that a human body is carrying information. Even a street dog can look at a pointing arm and treat it as a message about the world. Your dog has had years. It has watched your hands become arrows, your eyes become warnings, your posture become a forecast. It has learned that your body often announces the future before your mouth does. And this reading goes deeper than movement. In 2016, a study in biology letters found that dogs could combine information from faces and voices to recognize emotional meaning in both humans and other dogs. They were not just hearing a sound, they were matching a sound to a face, and a face to an emotional state. That is not obedience, that is interpretation. Another study the same year used brain scans to show that dogs process familiar human words and vocal tones separately, and that praise activates reward systems most strongly when the words and the tone match. In other words, your dog is not only listening for the word good, it is also listening for whether you meant it. The voice carries the command. The tone carries the truth. But even that is not the quietest part of you. Before the word, there is breath. Before breath, there is posture. Before posture, there is the chemical state of your body changing under your skin. When you are stressed, your smell changes. In 2022, researchers collected breath and sweat samples from people before and after a stress-inducing task. The dogs in the study were able to distinguish the stress samples from the baseline samples with high accuracy. You may think you walked into the room normally. Your dog may have entered a different room entirely, a room where the air says something happened. This is why dogs can sometimes seem to know when you are sad before anyone else does. They are not reading your diary, they are reading your body. They are reading the lowered energy, the slower movement, the lack of normal rhythm, the way your voice comes out flatter than usual, the chemical trace of a nervous system that changed before you explained why. To another human, you might look fine. To the animal that has spent years memorizing your baseline, you are not fine. You are different. That word matters. Baseline. Your dog does not read humans in general the way it reads you. It has built a private file on your patterns. When you wake up, when you leave, which shoes mean a walk and which shoes mean abandonment for 6 hours, which jacket means a short trip, which bag means a longer one, which version of your voice means play, and which version means everyone should stay very still. You may forget your routines because you live inside them. Your dog does not. Your dog lives beside them, watching them repeat until they become predictable. This is why the dog is at the door before the walk has begun, not because it read your mind, because the ritual started started before you knew the ritual had started. Maybe your breathing changed when you decided to go out. Maybe your eyes flicked toward the hook by the door. Maybe you stood up with the slightly faster movement you use when you are not going to the kitchen. It did not guess. It remembered. And memory changes behavior. A dog living with an unpredictable person often becomes hypervigilant. It watches more. It startles more. It learns to scan the room for small changes because small changes may become loud ones. A dog living with a calm, predictable person can relax because the pattern is stable. This is the uncomfortable part. Your dog is not only learning your kindness, it is learning your instability, your routines, your moods, your impatience. The version of you that comes home tired and the version of you that comes home gentle. It is building a model of the human it depends on. Dependency is what makes the reading so intense. A wild animal can flee from a confusing human. A dog usually cannot. Its food, shelter, movement, safety, and social world are tied to the decisions of one species that speaks in sounds it does not fully understand. So it watches everything else. The leash, the shoes, the keys, the silence after a bad phone call, the fake cheerful voice you use when you are trying not to sound upset. The difference between you walking toward it and walking past it, all of it becomes data. This does not make the bond less real. It may be what made the bond possible. Humans and dogs changed each other by paying attention. We selected dogs that were better at living with us. Dogs selected humans too, in their own way, by attaching themselves to the people who fed them, protected them, understood them, and did not hurt them for getting too close. Over time, the distance between species narrowed. A wolf became an animal that looks at a human face for guidance. A human became an animal that speaks to a dog like a family member. Two species that should not have understood each other built a shared language out of gestures, tone, repetition, smell, and food bowls placed on kitchen floors. But the language is not equal. You think you are the one giving commands because you have the words. Your dog may be reading the sentence before you say it. It knows the walk before the leash, the anger before the shout, the sadness before the tears, the goodbye before the door opens. Not perfectly, not magically, but often enough that it can feel like something stranger than observation. And maybe that is why dogs feel so close to us. Not because they understand human language the way humans do, but because they understand the parts of us that escape language, the parts we reveal before we control them, the small signals that leak out of the body before the mind has time to prepare a story. Your dog is not just obedient. Obedience is what happens after a command. Most of what your dog knows about you happens before that. So the next time your dog lifts its head before you speak, the next time it waits at the door before the word walk, the next time it presses against you when you are sure you are hiding your sadness, remember what is actually happening. You are not being imagined, you are being read. By an animal whose ancestors survived by learning how to live beside the most unpredictable species on Earth. By an animal that turned human behavior into a map. By an animal that may not understand every sentence, but has spent its whole life studying the silence before them. Your dog is not waiting for you to explain yourself. It already heard the parts of you that spoke first.